Hello again. Now we will discuss how exactly ADAS software is flashed into the concerned ADAS ECU. In the previous video, we checked or we learned how any software is flashed into any ECU. Okay, here we will discuss the same topic in the context of ADAS. Now, flashing the ADAS software into ECU involves series of technical steps, specialized tools and protocols. Below is the detailed breakdown of the process. Okay, just like flashing any regular any software, any random software into ECU, even for ADAS, specialized tools and specialized steps are required. Now we will go through that step by step. First of all, ADAS software contains algorithms and functions like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, automatic emergency braking, rear cross traffic alert. Now you name any ADAS functionality, the concerned algorithm is what forms the ADAS software. And what are the various types of software, various types of ECUs? ADAS functions may reside in dedicated ADAS ECU, or it can be integrated into centralized domain controller. For example, Tesla's autopilot ECU or Bosch DAISY ECU. Okay, there are some centralized domain controllers in which, along with ADAS, body control, infotainment software also can be flashed. But let's keep our focus of concentration only on ADAS. Now, what are the tools required for flashing ADAS software? First is the diagnostics tools. I hope all of you are able to correlate what I am speaking here with what I spoke in the previous video. Okay, diagnostic tools. First tool is OBD programmer like X431 or Autel Maxisys or Bosch ECI used for standard flashing. This is used for standard flashing. Next comes J2534 pass-through devices. This is also a diagnostic tool. For example, Vector VN1630, DrewTech Mongoose, Peak Pecan USB. All these things are pass-through devices. They allow the OEM level flashing via this protocol. This protocol is nothing but a standard or a procedure outlined in the automotive industry for flashing the diagnostic software. And next comes this OEM specific tools. OEM specific tools like VW Otis, BMW Ista, Mercedes Xentry or Ford Iscon. All these which I mentioned in the previous video, all these are OEM specific tools. They are required for proprietary flashing. Now this proprietary flashing happens exclusively inside the factory of the concerned OEM. For example, this Mercedes Xentry happens strictly within Mercedes. BMW Insta happens strictly within BMW. Next is this ECU flashing tools. Bootloader tools like PCM Flash, KES V2, Magic Motorsport used for direct ECU flashing. In the previous video, we saw there are plenty of way to flash like bench flashing or bootloader flashing. All these kind of flashing are there. So for bootloader flashing, these are the tools which are required. PCM, KES, Magic Motorsport, all these bootloader tools. Next comes bench flashing tools like KTAG, BDM100 when used when ECU is removed from the vehicle. Okay, so when ECU is removed from the vehicle, this is the bench flashing tool that is used to flash the software. Next comes the debugging and calibration tools like Vector Cano, Vector Canopy, ETAS Inca used by OEMs for parameterization. And what are the various kinds of software tools? First, let's briefly touch upon the firmware files. Firmware files like .bin, .hex, .s19. These are provided by the OEMs or aftermarket suppliers. Okay, these are the firmware files or the actual software files. Next is the flash bootloader, which is always embedded in ECU. Understand this word carefully. Flash bootloader is always embedded in the ECU. Next comes the flashing software. When it comes to flashing software, OEM software has some ready-made software like Volkswagen Otis or Ford IDS or Toyota Techstream. All these are flashing the actual software that are flashed into the ECM. And there are again some aftermarket tools like AN TechS, DimSport Genius. Okay, next comes the communication protocols. Now these are all the various communication protocols: UDS ISO 1429, KWP 2000, or CAN ISO 157652 or XCP. These are the various types of protocols used for diagnostic purposes, or older protocol for the same ECU, or high speed flashing, or high speed calibration. These are the various types of software tools that are currently being used. Now, to continue, there is something called step-by-step flashing process. Now, this step-by-step flashing process is very similar to what I explained in the previous video. Okay, let's go through it step by step. First of all, you enter the bootloader mode. The ECO must switch from application mode to bootloader mode to accept the new firmware, and this is done by diagnostic command 0 by 10 or 0 by 3 in UDS for programming session, and also through hardware trigger. Okay, next is erasing the existing software. You need to first erase the existing software. So whatever software is there already in the ECU, so of course you don't compulsorily erase or eradicate all the software. So whichever software is not required, that you erase with the help of commands like 0 by 31 or 0 by 01 to clear the ECU's flash memory. And some ECUs require segmented erasing, block by block. Just like software is flashed chunk by chunk, sometimes it is erased also block by block or chunk by chunk. Next comes the transfer new firmware. The flashing tool sends the binary file in the packets. Now this is something I touched upon in the previous video also. And next is checksums are verified for each block. And next comes the actual downloading. 0 by 34 request the download, 0 by 36 the actual transfer data, and 0 by 37 request the exit transfer. Okay, once this 0 by 36 process is completed, then you use the command to 0 by 37. So it is this is what or this is the command through which you request the exit transfer. Next comes the verify and post programming checks. The ECU verifies integrity via checksum validation, reset command. ECU coding may be required for writing the WIN configuring parameters. Last but not the least, how is the ADAS calibration completed? It is critical for functionality. After flashing, sensor calibration is often needed, camera calibration using targets and OEM software, radar and lidar alignment via dynamic or static calibration. Next, and how does this ADAS calibration go about? With the help of tools like Hella Gutman, Bosch DAS 3000, and OEM specific calibration rigs. With the help of this OEM specific calibration rigs, the actual ADAS calibration happens. Now, after the calibration is completed, we need to check the security and authentication. Okay, more ECUs use secure flashing to prevent unauthorized updates. With the help of secure boot HSM hardware security module, only signed firmware is accepted. The firmware which is flashed into the ECM must be signed thoroughly. And of course, there are authentication keys required for unlocking flashing, and OEM specific seed key algorithms like Smoke FG Tech handle this. Next is challenges and risks. Breaking the ECU. Okay, I already told you what is going to be breaking the ECU. In case there is some kind of failure, or in case there is some kind of incorrect software, then the flashing may be stalled. That is called the breaking the ECU. Next is the WIN locking. Some VCUs reject the firmware if WIN doesn't match. Actually, this is not a challenge or risk. This is a necessity, because with the help of the wrong WIN, the wrong software can be flashed into the ECU. So this is actually a necessity. And what is the compatibility issue? Wrong firmware version may cause malfunctions, and dealership locks. Some OEMs restrict flashing into authorized tools only. Okay, next comes the in conclusion, whether it is through the OEM or aftermarket, correct firmware files has to be flashed. The flashing order software into the ECU requires correct firmware flashing, compatible flashing tools for the given OEM on the given ECU. Next is a proper protocol, whether it is a UDS protocol or a CAM protocol, XCP protocol. The correct procedure must be used, and after the flashing is completed, they must have a proper post-flash calibration. This process is critical for ADAS updates, recalls, or retrofitting, and must be performed carefully to avoid system failures. Okay, so hope all of you got a overview or a bird's eye view about ADAS software flashing into the ECU. Now let me tell you, this particular videos, this video and the previous video are definitely going to give you some kind of a overview or an introduction to the software flashing. But only when you get into a OEM and you do this particular work hands on, you will get a better idea. This is only like theoretical teaching. Okay, but this definitely will give you a head start when you want to pursue a career in software flashing. All right, thank you.